Hello, hello! Today I will be once more returning to the Minotaur, the Royal Navy Tier 10 cruiser that I have been very undecided about, honestly. It's extremely squishy, but it's also extremely mobile. It has excellent concealment, and it has excellent potential firepower as well. I say potential because firepower tends to vary, or like the damage tends to vary so greatly depending on angle, distance and such things, that I've honestly been wanting to play it a bit more before really giving like what I consider my final verdict on this ship. Like it hasn't been an easy ship to review because this ship, well, first of all, I would say this ship depends, probably out of all the cruisers, this ship is probably probably the single most punishing cruiser in the game at T10. It's really unforgiven for any sort of positional mistakes or spotting mistakes, or any sort of mistakes really get punished so extremely heavily. And it's basically because of the thin armor and the large citadel, and the fact that, well, if you get spotted in this thing, pretty much anything can take you on 1v1. Like, even T9s can take you on 1v1. You're in general not a good 1v1 equal fair fight type of ship. You suck at that. You are exceptionally bad. Now, I'm not very impressed by our gearing here, because he had the absolute dream spawn for the 2-cap. But instead of going to the 2-cap to help his Shimakaze buddy, he decides to sail all the way up to 3, which is less than admirable, since rather double team and 2 and then go up and take 3. But some people have, of course, different plans. Perhaps I was wrong, or perhaps I wasn't. Well, whatever. I decide then, well, if the gearing is not going to support the Shimakaze, then I should. And this is, of course, something this ship is exceptionally good at, thanks to the extremely low concealment. You can kind of sneak up. You see, I managed to get behind this island completely undetected. And I'm telling this Sunako guy, the Shimakaze, I'm here to back you up. Please scout for me, because if he has a cruiser backing you up, I can't do anything unless he, of course, scouts that DD for me. And the Shimakaze has the same concealment as pretty much, or well, lower or the same as pretty much all of them, except for Kagero with Concealment Expert. So I'm hoping he would move. It's taking him a while to understand. He tells me there's a DD here somewhere, and I tell him, yes, I know, that's why I'm here. Literally, the reason I came here was to back him up and help kill that DD so he can actually get the cap. So now it seems he has finally grasped onto my meaning. Well, I'm not entirely surprised that he might be a bit shocked, or, well, honestly, I'm not too criticizing here, because the average cruiser doesn't really tend to understand to back up your DDs and such. He finally did understand to scout though. Well, it was more the fact that the Fletcher came to him than him going to this Fletcher, but whatever, I'll take it. I finally know what DD is here, and I know where he is. So I'm gonna slip around. Now this kind of turn would pretty much be impossible on any other cruiser, T10 that is. But this ship really gets around it quite easily, and this ship of course accelerates extremely well while turning as well. So I get around and I pop my Hydro, he's spotted in his smoke, and well, at close range, the Minotaur simply eats DDs alive. You don't get overpens, or well, you do extremely rarely. You do get some bounces against angled targets, of course, which is less than impressive considering, well, you're shooting a goddamn DD. I mean, 16 bounces, 13 hits. But the sheer volume of shells tends to it just compensates for that on this ship. I mean, yes, seeing the game end and you have like over 150 bounces is kind of discouraging, but that's not really telling the whole story, because this ship just spews out such an absurd amount of shells all the time, and it just tends to melt through targets extremely quickly. In fact, there's a pretty good example here. I think this Bismarck has DC'd. I have 15k damage now, and I have 15k damage done right now, and I think this is a DC'd Bismarck, but this basically gives you an idea of a stationary or reversing or slowly moving battleship, just how much like potential constant damage you can do if you get this perfect angle on someone. Yes, you still get bounces, yes, you still get the occasional ricochet, but the actual damage output is such a constant stream of ow, basically. I mean, I started what, 15k, and you can see the number ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. So I didn't really get that much damage done doing what I did, 25k damage. But just how quickly you do 25k damage to a battleship, if you just get that broadside. Of course, the closer you are, the more deadly it is. So the AP, the characteristics of the AP is not really that impressive. I mean, they said in, I think it was a recent Q&A with Jingles, they said it has excellent plunging fire against cruisers. I think that's a complete and absolute lie. In fact, I think the plunging fire is the worst against cruisers. I do much more damage to battleships than I do to angled cruisers. In fact, even when I get that plunging fire at long range, I have seen Moskvas just sit there, nose in. Moskva has one of the biggest superstructures, so you'd think there would be a lot to shoot at, and I do pretty much no damage at all to the Moskva. He can just ignore me, even though I'm getting that plunging fire on his superstructure. So I don't, this ship is exceptionally weak against cruisers who know you are there, but honestly, it's kind of exceptionally weak against anything that can fight you evenly or knows where you are, gets to shoot back at you. Any sort of even fights. This is the definition of an opportunistic hunter. In fact, it very much plays, I would say, like gunboat DD, where you don't really pick equal fights. I mean, if you get to fight an enemy DD, yeah, you love but that's not really an equal fight. That's a huge advantage for you. And you don't really want any equal fights. You want to take an advantage. You want to see someone fighting someone else, and then you butt in, or you smoke up and you just take advantage of someone who's distracted. And very opportunistic and very hard to play compared to the other cruisers, I would say, because you can't just take shots at anything. Like if I shot at this rune without stopping and smoking up first, he would absolutely decimate me. And North Carolina from over there, he would double citadel me, and I would melt in seconds. You cannot really take any fights unless you are in cover. You noticed, by the way, that I scavenged the Fletcher smoke earlier. That's because I'm trying to save my own smoke as long as possible. In fact, before I even start fighting this rune, I make sure I get as close as I can. I get all my guns, I smoke up, and now I open fire. I go through all these steps like preparation and being caught flat-footed. If you're in full speed and you get caught flat-footed by a sudden enemy cruiser popping up in front of your face, it's pretty terrifying, because you have to slow down and smoke, and during that slowing down and smoke, you'll be eating citadels, you'll be eating massive damage. Now your heal is great, which kind of compensates for it, but it doesn't of course heal all the damage, and you hope you can get your heal off before you actually die, because losing huge chunks of health. In fact, this ship is probably one of the single most exciting ships to play. I don't think I've ever really had a boring game in this ship, and that's because your health tends to yo-yo up like a roller coaster. It goes up and down, you hit double citadel, it drops down to 10k, you pop your super heal, it pops back up to 25k, you hit another citadel, it's down to 10k, you get your next heal and you're back up to 20k. It's this constant roller coaster, and you constantly have to be on your toes and vary, and even when you're fighting there's really no downtime when you're shooting, because it's this constant stream. You just hold down mouse 1 and you rain this rain of fire, well, rain of AP in this case, on your targets. So even though I was highly skeptical about this ship, it probably is one of the most exciting cruisers to play right now. It's such a constant feeling of being on your toes, being careful, and I mean it's not very easy to play either. You can get easily deleted, but then on the other hand you can absolutely melt targets. In fact, here I want to reverse and torp into this gap, but if you look at my smoke, it runs out I think at 45, 44, 43, 43. That's where it runs out. So this is of course exactly the situation you don't want to be in. Now, luckily Iowa dispersion isn't perfect, because otherwise I would insta-die here. Instead, I just eat the typical double citadel. And you see how fast my HP dropped down, and now pop my heal, and you see how fast it's going up again. And that's kind of the thing. Whenever you're spotted in this ship, it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But once again, I had, what, 60k damage down there earlier, and you have this explosive potential at any point when you get into a fight that you can suddenly do an insane amount of damage. This York tries to rush me, he has no idea what he's getting into. The amount of damage he instantly melts away. I went from 60k damage to 143k damage in basically the time it took from the smoke to fade to me to get behind this corner. It has this huge explosive potential of damage that, as I said, very opportunistic. If you get into the right position at the right time, you can absolutely obliterate targets. You can do so much damage with these extremely strong torps and the constant rain of AP damage. So, one of the hardest cruises to play, I would say, or, well, I mean, you can play it safely, but actually getting these huge numbers and being effective is quite hard because you have to get the good positions and you have to constantly dodge it on radars, hydros and such. In this case I see a gearing smoke, I want to rush into that gearing smoke, taking a huge risk here. Because if I get shot at either the Yamato or Io, I probably die. But I'm willing to take this risk because the rewards for taking this risk can be so huge. Just getting into the right position, sending out torps against the Yamato, sadly the Shima had already torped him. Otherwise that would have been another like 60-70k from torps on him. But instead I just start melting an Atago who gives me broadside. I'm gonna revert. Like, it's finally some downtime in between this non-stop action. Oh, and the downtime lasts a couple seconds because I'm so close to the enemy. I found a position right next to the enemy, and this is where it shines. As long as you don't get hydrated, of course. But if you get to be in cover in this position, your DPM is so insane. Like, this York is melting, a Shimakaze spotted. Instantly switch target to the Shimakaze, start raining down fire on him. The Shima is dead, switch back to the York, and continue melting him. It's fast-paced, it's fun, it's extremely risky, it's dangerous, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding when you get into these positions. Like, look at this York just, or this rune just melt away. It's literally like snow left in the sun. That's my Kraken already. And I even missed out on some kills, like the AFK Bismarck that only did 25k to, I didn't even get the kill on him. It's just this constant damage. I ate 2 torps, I'm flooding, but my heal is up, so I'm regaining health, but look at the score, 950. If I kill this Atago, I'm gonna flood to death, but if I kill this Atago, I will just be able to clinch the points. It's so close, so close. Oh, and I managed to skew it, 1000 points, and instead of me dying in that game, I instead end up as a victor, coming out with 6 kills and 206k damage. So, this ship is the definition of exciting, I would say. It's not the easiest ship to play by any means, but when you get into these correct positions and you have the correct situations and everything, but when things click with this ship, it really is unlike any other ship. Looking at the base XP, you can of course see the massive impact I had on this game, just as a, well, solo playing cruiser on Bastion, which isn't exactly the best possible situation really. So damage wise, the torps did about 40k. I only really landed 3 torps, but still the sheer amount of damage is just insane. And damage received, 75,000 damage. If you consider that this ship only has what, 43k, so it gives you an idea of just how much additional HP you can squeeze out of it as long as you manage to survive. So my final verdict regarding the Minotaur is that it's certainly a strong cruiser, a very strong cruiser. Difficult, or well, rather challenging, I would say. Very risky, but exciting and both punishing and rewarding at the same time. So, despite my misgivings or hesitation, and despite my opinion of the rest of the line, especially tier 1 to 5 or maybe even 6, the Minotaur is pretty goddamn great.